me, Chris Jurgensen. This is part 2 of my two-part series on the Miles Davis classic, All Blues. Now, if you want to recall from the last lesson, I just covered the 1 chord and the 4 chord in this song. This is just a blues. It appeared on Miles Davis's 1959 Kind of Blue record, and it's very simple, but that's why it was challenging, because it came after all that bebop stuff, and Miles was looking for a way to express himself in a more gentle kind of manner, and that's what this song is all about. So in the last lesson, we talked about the 1 chord and the 4 chord, and this song is in the key of G, so it's talking about G7, the 4 chord is going to be C7, right? So G7 and C7. That's what we talked about in the last lesson. So today we're going to move on to the 5 chord. Now, this is where things get a little interesting, because that 5 chord is going to be D7 sharp 9, but it's got the 5th on the top. This is an important thing to remember. Goes up a half step to E flat 7 sharp 9. It goes back down, but this time it's not E7 sharp 9, D7 sharp 9, it's D7 sharp 9 and sharp 5. So once again, and so you have to think about how you want to approach these chords. Now, before we get into the fine details of what's going on here, and we get into that music theory black hole, when I listen to the record, not all of it, but I'm not really sure, but it seems like almost all of it, they're just playing chord tones, or something sort of like chord tones, chord tones interdispersed with different approach notes and things. But so I hear a lot of, for example, that's the root and the sharp 9. Because it goes up a half step. And then they sort of go into like a blue, more of a, for the G7, a blues sound or a Mixolydian type of sound. And so a lot of it is sort of chord tone based approaches for these chords. So let's just listen to that before we get into the other crazier stuff, okay? So here we go. So I hear a lot of that going on, but there's other interesting things that you can do here, and that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit. So now we're getting into the theory part of this. So that D7 sharp 9, remember, it has the natural 5th. That's what the melody's playing, so it sort of tells you that it's got a natural 5th in the chord. Now, anytime you have a sharp 9 and a natural 5th, it's a pretty good chance that it's coming from the half step, whole step, diminished scale. In this case, D, right? And then for the E flat, 7 sharp 9 chord, now you're talking the E flat, half step, whole step, diminished scale, okay? But we don't have so much time on these chords, right? And the last chord got sharp 9 and sharp 5. That's telling us altered. There's really no way around that. So in that case, D altered is E flat melodic minor. Okay, so these are where these chords are coming from, in my opinion, anyways. It doesn't mean you have to approach them this way, because that's a lot of work. Like I said, you're only on that D7 sharp 9 for one measure. You're on the E flat sharp 9 for half a measure, and then on the D altered sounding chord for another half a measure. So it's not like you got a lot of time. So first thing I'd like to tell you here is that let's talk about that diminished scale, okay? Now for the D7 sharp, now we're playing D half step, whole step diminished. Now, one way that you can have a lot of fun and get a really interesting sound is that you can look at the triads in the scale. Now, remember, thinking from D, there's 4 triads. There's also 4 dominant chords. So you can play D triad, F triad, A flat triad, and C flat triad, but it's easier to think in B, obviously, and harmonic to B. So D, F, A flat, and B. These are all going to create some kind of interesting extension for that D7 sharp 9. Not the D triad, that's just the root, the third, and the fifth. That's right in the bottom of the chord. But like the F, what would that be? See, that would be the sharp 9, fifth, and the flat 7. Next, we have A flat. That would be the A flat, would be the sharp 11. The C would be the flat 7, and the E flat would be the flat 9, right? Next, that B would be the 13th, the flat 9, and the 3rd, right? So these are all the different extensions that you're going to get when you use these triads. Now, this just moves up a half step for that E flat 7 sharp 9 chord, okay? I don't want to like go too fast and everybody gets confused. So so one way of practicing is just like taking some of these triads for the E flat 7 chord, just move the one you're on up a half step and then go back down. But remember that there's a good chance that that D7 chord that comes up the second time around is going to have a sharp 5. So you want to maybe you want to avoid the triads that have the A note in it, because that would be the natural 5th. And you might want the sharp 5 for the second time it comes around. I hope I'm not confusing anybody. Get the PDF if you're confused. So where would that A note be? Well, it would be in the D triad. It would be in the F triad, and that's it. So you got to be a little bit careful of those two the second time it comes around, but you don't have to be so careful. I mean, it's not going to kill anybody if that A natural pops out. So that's all you have to do. So I'm suggesting that when you can still use the other 2 triads is what I'm trying to tell you, and so you don't have to like really change your thinking for that last D7 chord, okay? So now, just for this example's sake, let's say you go up D7. Here's the A flat right here. Of course, you can play a bigger, you could go up a half step, back down. That A flat doesn't have an A natural in it, and then to G. So that's a great way to practice. I would just try to practice these for starters, just Ds. And then, you know, you don't play the same lick all the time, but play the same triads. And then, you know, try in different positions. So let's just listen to that, okay? Remember, D, A flat. Up a half step would be A for the E flat 7 sharp. And then back down again to A flat and then G, okay? So let's check that out. So again, just play D, A flat, up a half step, back down a half step, and then G to match the G7 chord, right? Okay, so let's take this a step further. What if we want to use 3 triads? Not just D and A flat. What if I did, for example, D and A flat, maybe B. Gonna go up a half step for the E flat 7 chord, which would be C now, right? B to C. Back down again. And then for the G, why don't we do a G triad? Remember, Mixolydian, you can use an F triad and a G triad. So one more time. Something like that, okay? So let's try that. Okay, so now we did 3 triads, okay? Remember, I went D, A flat, up to B. The chord goes up a half step, I'm going up a half step. Back down a half step, and then to G, and F, okay? So let's move like a different position and try some different ones. Let's try, okay, D. Look at the triad first. D, A flat, F, right? Let's just work with these 3 for now. B, A flat, F, up a half step, that's A, and G flat for that E flat chord, right? Remember, D, now, I'm going to try to avoid that A note, because remember the second time around that D chord might have a sharp 5 in it. So I'm just going to go. It's probably one of the notes that isn't the A note, and then to G. So let's see what that sounds like. Cool. That was fun. Let's add another one. Let's see. We got a B right here. Look, so D, A flat, F, and then B. A half step, down a half step, and then it's like just some chord tones for the G7. All right, let's try that. Hope I can do it. Okay, so, again, these are just ideas that you can mess around with the triads and see if you can come up with some cool lines yourself. The only other thing that you might want to try is actually playing the altered scale on that second D7 chord. But it's hard. I mean, how much scale playing can you actually do in half of a measure, right? So I thought about this a little bit because I'm not particularly good at just doing this. So look, I thought that maybe like this. As the E flat bass note, right? But see, strangely enough, those notes are in that altered scale too. So maybe by working on this, you do it simple at first. You go. Or something. You find a way to end it properly. Let me just try it. If I can't do it, sorry. All right, so I use some of those altered ideas for you don't have a lot of time, but you can fit it in if you want. So to close this down, I'm just playing over. Remember, I'm just playing over the 5, the 6, the 5, and the 1 chord for 2 measures, and I just got it on loop. So this is a good way to practice it because the 1 chord and the 4 chord is not that. Might not be as challenging as this. This is way more challenging. So I suggest that you make yourself a loop of the 5, the 6, and the 5 again, the 5, the flat 6, and the 5 again, and the 1 chord. You just sort of loop it and practice that way. It's silly to waste your time, playing over the 1 and the 4 chord when you would probably need more practice on these 2 chords. So, in closing here, I'm just going to use some of the ideas that we worked on over this ending vamp, okay? Alrighty, so I hope this gives you some great ideas for all blues. It's a great standard song, and you will play it on occasion, I guarantee it. And I hope, by using some of these ideas, you will leave a lasting impact after you're done. So if you need the theory stuff here is a little bit difficult, so maybe you want to get that PDF, you can get it at Patreon. And your $5 really goes a long way to helping me keep these things going, because it does cost a little bit of money to do them. All right, so have a nice day, and if you work on the song, send a video of you playing it, and I'll give you some advice on it. All right, so have a nice day. Goodbye.